All righty. Well, I see people logging in there. Looks like we're getting ready to go here. A number of people are still registering and logging in, so I'll give them just a second to do that. I want you to know I'm really excited about having this conversation with everyone today. This is a great subject. I want to share some information with you. I want to get your opinion. I think this is going to be a great conversation. As we get ready to get started, I want to remind everybody to stay focused. You'll get the most out of this conversation today by staying focused. What I mean by staying focused is I do this. I check my email. I see texts coming in. Maybe I'm on Facebook or LinkedIn. What I would tell you is shut down your phone, mute it or turn it off. Do yourself a favor. Get rid of your email for the next hour, hour and a half. Don't go to Facebook or LinkedIn or some other site. In fact, get a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen. I'll give you a second to do that, because this is going to be great content for you. When we get done here today, you're going to have some information and some resources and tools that will help you make a major difference in your business. But stay focused. So get rid of the email, get rid of the phone, get rid of the other stuff, and let's just stay focused. Here's what I want to cover with you. I want to start off by talking about your vision. Now, just envision yourself working in this long-term care market. And what would happen if you had a unique understanding that accurately identified your long-term care market? How would it change your business by having that unique understanding to identify your long-term care market while constantly generating more activity? And how would you generate more activity? By using a clear and confident script that engages and converts your prospects into clients. And that's what it's all about, right? You have to convert your prospects into clients. Doesn't matter how many prospects you have, it matters how many clients you have. And that's my promise to you today. That's exactly what I'm going to show you to do. So if I do show you how to use a simple step-by-step method to identify who the real long-term care issue is with, making more effective sales presentations, getting more clients, and a bigger income, and I'm just going to ask one thing from you. You should make a commitment to putting into practice what you're going to learn today, if it's right for you. Now, is that fair? Is that too much to ask? And everybody, type in your text box and let me know that you think that's fair. Because if you don't think that's fair, this probably isn't the right presentation for you to be on. Yes, 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 yes. Get started. Okay, I'll get started. Calm down. Yes, yes. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Listen, the reason I'm doing this is I'm tired of seeing salespeople struggle to grow their book of business. I want to get better training in as many salespeople's hands as possible. Let's go through some sales myths, particularly about long-term care in that market. The way I was raised in the sales business, the way I was trained to sell long-term care is to do these things. You show the prospect how they can stay in their own home, right? You show the prospect how they can protect their assets. You show the prospect the possibility they will need long-term care. And you show the prospect how much more long-term care will cost if they wait, right? We scare them to death. And then they will buy. I don't know about you, but that hardly ever happened for me. Rarely when I went through each of these things, they go, oh my gosh, thank the Lord, Lloyd, you showed me this. You opened my eyes. Can I give you cash? They rarely bought. And if you've been down these roads, then you're obviously here today because you know that stuff doesn't work. You see, we don't need more training. We need better training. So let me ask you, does this sound like you? They said they need long-term care, but they don't buy. They say they understand the risk of not having long-term care, and yet again, they don't buy. They say they want to talk to their kids, but when I follow up, they don't even take my call, or they won't commit to another time for me to come out. My appointments, they're not sticking. I struggle to handle objections. In fact, I'm losing more sales than I'm closing when I try to sell long-term care. If these sound familiar, you're in the right place. Trust me. This is the right webinar for you to be on. You see, it doesn't have to be that way. I've been there. I wish I would have known what I'm going to show you today, because if I had known what I'm going to show you today, I would have eliminated all those problems that we've talked about. So who's the webinar for today? For new salespeople looking to get their business off the ground, for salespeople looking to jumpstart in a new market. That's particularly relevant now that the insurance market's changing so much, isn't it? I get calls every day from agents that are switching from health insurance, ACA, over to other markets. I need more qualified leads people. Maybe that's one of you. Why can't I get appointments? People needing a better script. Maybe that's one of you. I'm having trouble with objections or closing. That was me for sure. Experienced salespeople who know they can do better, but whatever the but is, it's just not happening, right? I thought you could make a six-figure income adding long-term care. Were you told that? Because I was told that for a long time. It never happened. Maybe you're doing okay. You just want to get more meaning out of what you do. Listen, if this is you, if this is for you, stick around to the end. I've got a printable cheat sheet for you. For everybody that sticks around to the end, I've got this printable cheat sheet for you. But let me tell you something. You don't have to be special to succeed in the long-term care market. And you don't have to be special to add long-term care into your portfolio. I'm nobody special. I've just started as an agent many years ago. In fact, here's my contact information. I take phone calls and emails from people. That was me when I first became an agent back in 1977. Ooh, I was young then. That's me as an agency manager. Over the years, I've been an agency manager. I've run my own broker-dealer agency. And this is me now. I started with John Hancock in 1977. I was a debit agent. Most people don't even know what that is anymore. In Alton, Illinois. I went to their sales management school in 1979, and I left in the early 80s. You go over to Combined Insurance Company. Started off as a field trainer, taking new agents right out of their sales school and walking them down the street, teaching them how to go door to door. I ended up being a regional, running my own team. A few years ago, I was an agency manager with American Republic Insurance Company in Knoxville, Tennessee. We had such a successful office that in just a few months, they offered me the opportunity to come up to the home office in Des Moines, Iowa. I had been traveling around to some of the other offices out of Knoxville, Tennessee, North Carolina, doing senior training for those agents. They asked me if I would come to Des Moines. I ran the career distribution shop. In fact, the senior vice president said, "Lloyd, I truly believe that you're making a huge difference in the lives of many agents and managers. I appreciate your dedication to duty and the type of person you are, quality and top-notch." That was in 2002, and a couple of years later, I got promoted to the Director of Operations for American Republic Sales Training Institute. I was responsible for the development, creation, delivery, and maintenance of all curriculum, materials, training sessions, everything for their captive distribution, all their retail brokers, call center. We had a 120-seat call center. I've been interviewed by the Wealth Channel through American College. Scott Drake's interviewed me for Annuity News Now. I was the past president of the Senior Insurance Marketing Association for 2 years in a row. I am currently a mentor through the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals. I mentioned earlier I've been writing articles for industry-related magazines for years. You can see them in Senior Market Advisor, Retirement Advisor, all over the place. In fact, if you get Insurance News Net magazine or go to insurancенewsnet.com, you can see the article I had in there in October on how to run a seminar without it running you. I'm considered a marketing expert through Demand Media. I've done more than 120 training vignettes for them. You can see it on Houston Chronicle and a bunch of other places. You can get my book on Amazon, The Sidewalk Executive. You can get the workbook that goes with that, the 7-step sales presentation that I do for organizations all the time. You can get my latest book, Leads to Results. It's just out this year with my good friend Richard Bufkin. He's the owner of Target Leads, the largest direct mail company in the country. They do a super job. I recommend them to everybody. And you can also get my 3-CD packet, which is everything from prospecting to getting referrals, presentations, the whole 9 yards. I want everybody on the call today to feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just type in Lloyd Lofton. Do that after the webinar, not now. Make sure you got your pen and paper because you're going to get a lot of information. I've got a big network, and I'm happy to help out when I can. So I want to talk to you about long-term care as you know it, how you were trained on it. What I'm about to talk to you about is what we were all taught on how to sell long-term care. We were told that the market is the America's silver tsunami, right? That's the baby boomers, those individuals born 1946 to 1964. Depending on who you listen to, there's 76 million, 78 million people. I do know that in 1964, 40% of the population fell into that baby boomer generation. We're told to consider the longevity of people as they age into the next phase of their life. Women, life expectancy is 86, men is 82. We're told that living longer makes it more likely that one or both of them will, at some point, need services that could be paid for by long-term care. Now, those are things you've been told. We've told that long-term care coverage includes skilled nursing, intermediate services, and custodial services. And we're taught that those services are provided through home health care, adult daycare, and nursing home care. We're told that the purpose of long-term care is people may need long-term care if they can't perform 2 or 3, depending on which carrier it is, activities of these daily living here. So typically a policy will pay benefits when the person can no longer perform a certain number of ADLs, such as 3 of the 6 or 2 of the 6. So is that how you know it? That's how most people know long-term care. That's how most people are trained to sell long-term care. And when I sit in on a training by a carrier, that's what they go through. We're also told that other reasons people may need long-term care is a doctor's certification for medical necessity, cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's. My mom had vascular dementia, or they had a prior hospitalization. Well, let's test your knowledge. Get your pen and pencil ready. Get ready to type on the screen. Go up to the chat box and give me a true or false on this. Most long-term care is provided in a nursing home. So just type in the chat box there, true or false, and let's see how it is. See what your level of knowledge is. Remember, I said at the beginning, I want to have a conversation. Okay, true, 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 false, false, not sure. All right, that's good. That's good. Well, it looks like we got some pretty smart people here. The answer is false. 88% of people who receive long-term care receive care at home or in an adult daycare facility. Now, this next number I want you to keep in mind because we're going to talk about it in a minute. 12% receive care in a facility. All right, you guys did good on that. Let's try another one. Nearly 40% of the long-term care population is under the age of 65. So what do you think on that? True or false? Type it in there. No, I'm not going to give the answer away. Just type it in. True, false, 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 true, true. Both? Okay, I don't think it's both, but we'll see. All right, you guys are doing great. Let's see what we got here. True. 40% of people receiving long-term care are working age adults, age 18 to 65. Is that surprising to you? Is that surprising to everybody? Let's do another one. The average length of stay in a nursing home is more than 5 years. Is that true or false? Type in the box, true or false, and let's see how many people can get it right. So far, you guys have done pretty good. Few people this is going to help because your information was a little off, but so far you guys have done pretty good. All right, true, true, false, false. 2 months, 10 years. I don't think those are correct, but let's see. Ready? False. Most nursing home stays are short recuperative stays, 10% of the nursing home population faces a stay of 5 years or more. Only 10%. Are you guys surprised about that? All right, let's see how much more you know. Nursing home expenses are covered by Medicare. All right, you got some pretty smart people on this call today. Let's see how many know that answer. Woo! Wow, you guys really on this one. I think some of you are familiar with this market because you're right, the answer is false. Medicare provides reimbursement for skilled care, but pays nothing for custodial care. That's why when my stepfather was in a skilled nursing facility, and my mother called me out in the field and said they were going to take the needle out of his arm because he was on pain medication, I said, "Are you sure you want him to do that? Because the minute they take that needle out of his arm, he's no longer skilled nursing care, he's custodial care, and you're going to pay the copay." All right, you ready for the next one? Oh, I already gave you the answer. All right, well, people have to spend all or almost all their assets to receive Medicaid benefits. I cheated, so I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. True, you can't own anything and be eligible for Medicaid. That's an important fact to keep in mind when you get those myths that people tell you about. On average, a one-year stay in a nursing home costs about $25,000. All right, I'm not going to help you with that one now. I already cheated. Is that true, false? True, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. $100,000, okay. All right, I'm getting some numbers here. Tell me true or false, true or false. That is false. Depending on where you live, the average cost for nursing home care will be between $50,000 and $80,000 a year or more. You guys did great. I'm really proud of you. I appreciate you sharing that part of the conversation with me. So now let's move on to the care recipient. Now we know what some of the facts are. The care recipient is an individual who requires short or long-term care because of a physical, mental, or medical need. That's the way we've been taught, right? And that's what we're looking for when we prospect, right? Now, here's the 4 reasons that we're trained to tell people why they need long-term care. Number 1, it gets you care you need in the setting of your choice. The second reason we give people and what we're trained on is to tell them that it helps you maintain your independence. And the third reason we're trained to tell people they need long-term care is it can help protect your retirement assets. And the last reason we give people to buy long-term care that we were trained on is it helps relieve financial and caregiving pressure on your family. We know that 58% of the people we talk to are concerned about paying for long-term care services, but only 16% own long-term care insurance. Now listen, I'm with you. I'm exactly like you. I always thought, sure, I'd like to sell more long-term care, but how do I find the qualified prospects? That's the issue, isn't it? Well, let's look at some myths about long-term care. Our prospects tell us this all the time, don't they? Some people call this objections. I call them the myths of long-term care. What do they tell you? I'm too young. My family will take care of me. Medicare and Medicaid will cover me. We know some of that's not true now, right? I can save enough on my own. In fact, they even say it like, oh, I can save enough on my own. Long-term care insurance is too expensive. How many times have you heard that? So, if you've been down this road, if you were trained to sell long-term care insurance that way, you're obviously here today because you now know that stuff doesn't work. We don't need more training on long-term care. We need better training. And we need better training because information alone is not going to change your business. So let's look at long-term care as the families know it. The families are the people you're talking to. I started off today by saying that I was excited about having a conversation with you. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about now, is having a conversation with your prospects and your clients, how to connect with them and how to make a difference in their life. Because there's no place like home, right? Everybody wants to be taken care of at home. In fact, most long-term care services are provided in the home. 51% of long-term care services are provided in the home. 30.5% are provided in a nursing home. Now, when we were going through the facts and I was asking you true or false, one of the things we found out is only 12% of long-term care is provided in a skilled nursing facility. You remember that? So if 30.5% of care is provided in a nursing home, we know that only 12.5% of that is in a skilled nursing home. So that means the balance of it, right? 20% of the people are in some kind of nursing home that's not skilled nursing care, which means they have to be paying for that. And 18.5% in an assisted living facility. Now, we know that most people are cared for at home. What we've been taught is that the reason they're cared for at home is because as they age, remember we showed that the average longevity for the man, the wife is 86, the man is 82, and the older they get, the more illnesses they're going to have, the more likely we're going to need care, and that's why we tell them it's important to have long-term care. But it turns out that may be changing in our population. Long-term care recipients are getting younger, not older. 81% of care recipients receiving long-term care were age 65 or older in 2010. But 5 years later, 60% of care recipients were 65 or older. So the number of care recipients age 65 and older is going down, not up. So people younger than 65 are needing long-term care. Now, what we were trained on is that they need long-term care for the illnesses, but that's changing too. The reason for needing care is less illness and more accidents. So you should be having a conversation with your prospects and your clients that brings out and drills down into the things that they're experiencing the most. Accidents are up from 2010 to 2015 from 11 to 19%. And the percent of people getting long-term care for illnesses has gone down from 44% to 35%. So let's look at the aging relatives and see if we can follow all the people that have to be a part of this team to provide care for them. So for me, my mother was 88 years old when she moved into our house, and my wife and I took care of her until she passed away. So it's you and your spouse, or in this case, my wife and I, and our children. Now, all my kids are grown, but they still had some concerns. We'll talk about that. Your siblings. So I have 3 older sisters, a sister in Knoxville, Tennessee, a sister in Cincinnati, Ohio, and a sister in Texas. And I'll tell you about their involvement. And then you have to consider the legal aspects. That's the power of attorney, the living will, whether they have a will and trust. And then we have to kind of know about the healthcare management. That's the doctors, the care providers, home health aides, visiting nurses, all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, there's the financial aspect of it. How much resources did the individual have? How much resource does the family have? What other insurance do they have? So when we look at caring for the aging relative, we have to look at it from a team approach. But on that team approach, we also have the circle of caregivers. So a caregiver, a care recipient, as we've already determined, is an individual who requires short or long-term care because of a physical, mental, or medical need, although that's actually changed, right? It's also because of an accident. But it's more people needing that because of an accident than an illness. Who's the primary caregiver? Well, that's the person who's responsible for providing assistance to the care recipient. The person often provides hands-on and or financial assistance. I can tell you in our home, my wife was the primary caretaker for my mother. I helped participate in that. I'm in that third category, the secondary caregiver. But I still work. So I have an office in Marietta, Georgia. I live in Conyers, Georgia, about 40 miles east of Marietta. That's in Atlanta. And so I go in the office 2 or 3 days a week, and I work at home from 2 or 3 days a week. So I have to work to still support our family. So my wife is a primary caregiver for my mother. I would be considered the secondary caregiver. And then there's community support. We had visiting nurses that came in, nurses aide that came in and helped bathe my mom once a week. My wife would do a bird bath we call it bird baths the rest of the week. We had nurses come in to change the catheter. So there was a number of community supports that we had in. We had people come in as she aged to help with durable medical equipment, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So the primary caregiver is the person who's responsible for providing assistance. They provide hand-on care and financial assistance. So that's my mom. She lived in Knoxville, Tennessee. Remember, I live in Conyers, Georgia. And what happened is she started going downhill a little bit. We, as family members, we really didn't even recognize it at first. We recognized that she was getting a little bit forgetful. But one Christmas, the year before she moved in with us, she was at our house, and we were at in the kitchen, and she was standing next to me, and I turned around to walk into the dining room, and just as I turned, I heard a smash on the floor, and I turned around and looked, and my mother had hit the floor face down. In fact, it knocked her front teeth out. And I thought she tripped over a computer cord that I had sitting on the kitchen table. But it turns out she actually had a stroke, vascular dementia. But she seemed to be, once we got her up, she seemed to be kind of with it. We took her to the emergency room. She ended up going to the dentist and getting false teeth put in. She seemed to be kind of with it, and we just all kind of got back to day-to-day life. But during the course of that next year, we started noticing some things. And my wife started going out to Knoxville and would stay with her for 2 weeks at a time, come home for a week, go back for 2 weeks at a time. My wife did that for 6 months before my mom actually moved in with us. But when she moved in with us, my wife set her up a little place in the kitchen, in the living room where she ate her meals. That's her bedroom. We bought her new bedroom furniture. My wife would take her, my wife was really great with her. My wife would take her out once a week and get her a pedicure, get her nails done. Because when you're taking care of an aging relative, you want them to have as much dignity as they possibly can. The caregiver's role, it's a complex one. You have to consider not only how that person feels about taking care of someone, but when they're married, about how that relationship of taking care of that person impacts the other person, even if it's your own parent. Sometimes those roles are in agreement, and sometimes they're not. You know, my wife never got a break from my mother. She was with her 24/7. The only time she got a break is when I would stay home with her. But our kids have been grown and away from home for a number of years. We were used to doing everything together. So even when my wife would go, if she went grocery shopping or to the store or something, if she wasn't taking my mother with her, I had to stay home with my mother. So you have to expect there to be conflicts at times. And you don't realize all the expenses that insurance doesn't cover. I mean, right here, this gentleman said, even with prescription drug coverage, I had to help my dad pay for his medication until I found out he was actually eligible for veterans benefits all along. It would have been nice to know that $1,000 ago, and I can attest to that. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go on. The conversation that you have with your prospects and your clients isn't to ask questions like, is your loved one taking care of himself or herself? That's a closed-in question that will get you a yes or no answer. What we need to do is we need to have a conversation with people. And the only way to have a conversation with people is talk to them about the things they use the most in the order they use those things. And when you ask a question, to listen for understanding, don't listen to reply. So questions like, is it overwhelming to keep up with the bills? Is the house more cluttered than usual? Do you find that your mother or dad are unable to grocery shop independently? How's their personal grooming and hygiene? Is it being neglected, do you notice? Do they take the trash out? Like, I would go visit my mom, and there would be all kind of trash bags in the garage. And, you know, like 5 or 6 of them. Well, I hadn't seen her in a couple of weeks, and you think, oh, she just hadn't taken the trash out yet. So I'd take it all out there. Well, actually, she would forget for weeks at a time to take her trash out. Is the mail being received on a regular basis? Because if it's been piled up in the mailbox, that could be a sign there's a problem. Are there any new debts or unexplained payments? Listen, my mom was getting magazines. She got to the point where anybody that called her up, she bought whatever they were selling online. But, you know, it happens gradually. It doesn't happen all in one day. Just gradually you show up at the house and you find out now she's got a Field and Stream magazine. And she's 88 years old. We saw her having gold delivered to the house. She was buying golden ingots. So we have to learn to ask this kind of question. The questions you ask aren't, is your loved one forgetting things? That's a yes or no question. It's a closed-end question. We want to ask questions that get people to disclose information. Remember, questions gather information and objections disclose information. So you want to ask questions that gather that information. Are medications taken correctly? Do you ever find that your parents aren't taking their medication right, or they forget it? Like my mom would forget her morning medication. She had about eight or 10 pills, and she'd take 2 of them at night, which would interact with some other pills that she wasn't supposed to do. But we didn't know this because nobody was there with her all the time. Do you notice any appointments being missed? My mom would go to her doctor's appointment, but towards the end, one of the things that made us decide my wife would go start staying with her in Knoxville is that she would leave the doctor's appointment and get lost getting back to her house. Again, another closing question that I would encourage you to get away from is, can he or she safely perform daily activities? I mean, what a generic, impersonal question. A better question is, do you see any safety-related tasks being forgotten, like turning off the stove? My sister lives in Knoxville. My sister went over to my mother's house one time, and she was laying down taking a nap in the afternoon, and had left the soup on the stove. The burner was on. Is going up and down the stairs or in and out of the home becoming difficult? That's why those trash bags were out in the garage. Is she would open the door to the garage, and she couldn't get down the 3 steps, so she would just toss the bag out there. Have dents or scratches appeared on the car? That sounds really unusual. I never thought about that before until I saw that happen to my mom's car. I'm not going to ask, have you noticed significant pattern changes? I'm going to ask, do you notice that he or she is spending any more time alone? Are they as active as they've always been, or do you see any less activity going on? How's their weight doing? How's your weight doing? Do you see any drastic changes in outlook? Sometimes when people, particularly if they starting to have Alzheimer's or dementia, their outlook will change. They'll either become angrier, they'll become depressed, or maybe they're just not in good spirits. I don't ask questions like, is your loved one forgetting things? Again, what an impersonal question. I'm going to ask questions like, do you find medications are being taken correctly? Or do you notice there's some problems with that? Have any appointments been missed? Do you find your mom and dad start to have a conversation and they lose their train of thoughts partway through the conversation? I mean, when you're having this conversation with people, whether you're having it with someone that you're going to uncover the need for long-term care for them, or you're talking to an underage person and they may see a need because of the behavior of their parents, because you're asking these questions. So, caregivers are no longer just female. Caregiving is split 50-50. In my house, my wife took care of my mother the majority of the time, but when I'm home, and I was home 2 or 3 days a week working, and on the weekends, I took care of her half the time. And you don't realize the kind of things you take care of. Like one time, my mom went to the bathroom, and she fell off the toilet, and my wife couldn't get her up. And my wife called me in the hallway bathroom, and I had to lift her off the toilet. And then my wife got her pants back on her and took her upstairs to clean her up. And I had to get the carpet cleaner and clean the carpet up. So you don't realize that you're going to actually be doing these things with your parents. But we wanted to provide as much of a home life as we could. After my mom was here for a while, her breathing got a little bit difficult and she had to go on oxygen. So you have to get the durable medical equipment out to the house. You have to learn how to use it. And there's expenses involved with that. Not all insurance covers that. So, we tried to let my mom live a life as normal as possible. We made her part of the family as she was. We didn't leave her at home with one of us. Most of the time, if my wife went to the mall for something, she would take my mother with her. We would go out to dinner once or twice a week, and my mom would eat dinner with us. It was really difficult because she had trouble understanding, and you can kind of start seeing the look in her eye where she had trouble understanding the menu or not remembering what she ordered. It would take her a long, long time to eat or drink stuff. You can see the bruise on her arm. She got to the point where if she just touched her arm on the table, she'd get a bruise on it. And, what happens is the caregivers, circle of care tends to change. The roles remain the same, but 60% of caregivers are between 25 and 54 years old, with the average age 46 to 53 years old. That was in 2010. 52% are more likely to be adult children of the care recipient, and that was the case in our family. And my sisters, my three older sisters, just either weren't in the right position in life, or it wasn't their personality. I'm not saying this is good or bad. It just wasn't in them to take care of my mom and have her live at home. 50% of caregivers are evenly split between men and women. 24% are other family members, more than in prior years. So the whole characteristics of people providing care has changed a lot. And that's why it's important to have this conversation with your clients and your prospects. When we took my mother out, we had her participate in everything that we did. She eventually had to have a walker in order to get around. So it would take twice as long to do anything when you had her out in public. And that affects, your own personality, that affects your own lifestyle, that impacts the rest of the family. And you just have to kind of learn to get used to that. If you're going to care for somebody for a good period of time, which we did for a couple of years, you have to learn to talk those things out. Again, we would take her out to restaurants with us. We'd take her shopping with us. My wife, we had her in a gym, so she couldn't do very much, but she liked the social interaction with people, and she would do a little bit of exercise. We tried to do the things to give her as normal a life as she could. We wanted her to get through the final years of her life with as much dignity as she could. And all those things cost money. Not all those things are things that insurance covers. Paying for care with their own money, 62% of the people pay that money out of their pocket. And that's what we did in our family. 45% have their quality of life affected. Now, that didn't happen in our family, but in a lot of families, a lot of my customers over the years, by having someone live with them and putting money out, it affected their quality of life. And that's a different kind of topic you have to have with people. 38% of people reduce the contributions to their own retirement or their savings plans, or they take money out of their retirement or savings to keep the parent at home. 20% of caregivers' out-of-pocket expenses increased almost 20% since 2010. And you think you've got insurance. Now, my mom had a really good insurance agent, me. So she had a long-term care policy that had a home health care over it. But I had to get that policy about 20 years ago. So things had changed, and some of the expenses that we had with her, none of her insurance would cover that, particularly the out-of-pocket stuff, durable medical equipment stuff that wasn't covered. 62% caregivers use their own savings in retirement. 45% report a reduction in the quality of living in order to pay for care. I've had a lot of clients did that were on fixed incomes. 27% report a negative impact on their relationship with the care recipient. Now, that didn't happen with my wife and I, but I know a lot of families that happened with. And part of the reason why a couple of my sisters couldn't have taken my mom in is it would have impacted them. So that's not always available. The prospect you're talking to or the client you're talking to says, my kids will take care of me. And we don't actually have this kind of conversation with them, but that's not always realistic. So we had my family came in, my daughter would fly in to visit with my mom, and that's an out-of-pocket expense. So somebody had to pay for that. She had to miss work to come in to visit my mom. So we contributed to that. We tried to give my mom as normal of life as possible. We tried to let her participate in the decisions she was capable of participating in. But I'm telling you, even things like getting her dressed in the morning, there was often times that my wife would go in upstairs and my mother was in the bathroom. She had her pants on, but nothing on the top, and she's putting her makeup on. And my wife would have to take her in the bedroom and say, Dottie, you need to put your top on before you come out. Or my wife had to sit down with her in the bedroom and put her makeup on her because she just couldn't do it. But those little things, like getting dressed, having her wig on, putting her makeup on, those are all things that kind of gave her a feeling that not only did she matter and she was important, but that she could still live a normal life. So how does it affect people negatively? Well, 43% of caregivers said that long-term care event negatively affected their personal health and well-being. And I can see that. I've had clients that had that experience happen to them. It was not uncommon for us to put my mother to bed at 8 o'clock at night, and at 11 o'clock you would hear noise up in her bedroom, and you go upstairs, and she had gotten up out of bed. A lot of times she would sleep late in the morning, and then she wouldn't be able to take a nap in the afternoon. So you're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I get how that can affect people's health and well-being. It throws off your whole routine. 41% of caregivers experience negative physical side effects, such as depression. Now, fortunately, we didn't get depressed over it, but my wife and I communicate pretty good. I've been in sales a long time. My wife's learned to be independent for years ago. I was an old door-to-door guy. She learned to be independent years ago, and we were able to talk these things through. But you know, a lot of spouses don't want the mother-in-law living with them, and they have arguments about it. In fact, 33% of caregivers report extremely high levels of stress. So remember that myth I said they tell you. You've heard that yourself. They say, "Oh, my kids will take care of me." This is the conversation we have to have with people and their family. Remember, I said this is a team approach. 55% of caregivers did not feel qualified to provide physical care. We didn't. I mean, we felt like we raised a bunch of kids. We felt like we could take care of my mother, but we couldn't do the catheter. It got to the point where we had to have someone come in and help bathe her. We had to have someone help change her clothes. We had to have someone help change her sheets. I mean, it got to the point where it wasn't physically possible for us to do that. 54% of caregivers expect negative feelings. 43% said that long-term care event negatively affected their health and well-being. 51% worry about the lack of time for themselves and their families. You have to have the personality to carve out that personal time when you're caring for somebody 24 hours a day. At a point in caring for my mother, it was like having another kid. So you have to be able to carve that time out for each other so that doesn't get lost. So I said 43% said it was negative well-being. 31% had high levels of stress. It can have a negative impact on your relationship. 44% of caregivers experience feelings like depression and resentment. 33% of caregivers reported feeling a high level of stress. 32% of caregivers reported feeling a high level of stress. So I know that there was some resentment on one or two of my sister's part at different times when they would call my mom and she couldn't communicate well with them, or we had my mom out and they couldn't get a hold of her. So there's different reasons why people get resentful or have stress. And that's the conversation we have to have with our prospect and our clients. Eventually, we had to have a lift put in our house because my mother couldn't get upstairs. That's not an expense that any insurance covers. That's out of pocket for us. We had to pay to have that put in. And it's very, very time consuming when you're trying to get her upstairs, or in the morning you get her up and get her dressed. It could take an hour and a half to get her dressed. And then you have to put her on the lift and take her downstairs. And, you know, it sounds kind of strange, but everything else you have to do has to wait until that gets taken care of. It got to the point where she couldn't come to the kitchen table and eat. We had to feed her at her chair. So my granddaughter came out to spend a little bit of time with mom. But, you know, that's stressful for the whole family because that's the mother, that's the grandmother that they're used to taking walks with and crocheting with and watching cartoons with, and now she barely even recognizes who they are. Eventually, my mom could hardly get around at all, and we would take her out on the back porch, particularly on the weekends, like on Sunday morning. That's her on Sunday morning going through the paper. She loved the ads. So we'd get all the ads for her, and she could sit out there for hours just going through the ads. You know, I was fortunate. I was fortunate in that I worked at home part of the time, and I could go to my office part of the time. But 52% of the people had to work fewer hours. 41% of people lose their vacation and sick time. That's the conversation that we need to have with our prospects and our clients. 35% repeated work absences. I had several work absences. This thing about missed career opportunities, there was a number of times that I missed opportunities that I could go out and speak or put on meetings because of the situation going on at home. And yeah, I was late for work a few times. 24% of the people are late for work. In fact, they lose 7 hours a week of work on average. That's almost 18% of a 40-hour week. So 77% missed work, 52% had to work fewer hours, 11% lost their job. In fact, in one survey, 51% of caregivers said they felt their career was negatively impacted by the situation. That's an important conversation to have with people when you're talking to them about long-term care for them, or when you bring the family in as a team. Everybody has to be honest about how this is going to impact the whole family. 19% of caregivers miss 10 or more hours of work every week. 55% of caregivers had to leave their jobs as a result of a long-term care situation. Listen, the hardest part was doing a job search for this one person. When the job was made, they had to turn it down because of the amount of time to take care of their stepfather. Some of the family members could not and did not contribute financially or assist with help personally. Now, that, maybe some of that was our fault. I probably could have asked my sisters for financial help, but we just took care of it ourselves. If you really love someone, I don't feel that caring for them is any burden at all. But you have to make sure you're happy to make others happy. So take care of you, and you will be able to take care of others. That's great advice. But the challenge is, if your spouse isn't of the same mindset, you may feel like that taking care of someone's no burden on you. But if it's a burden on the other person in the family, that's something that has to be considered. And that's part of the conversation we need to have with people. Plan in advance. We're all going to get old. It should not come as a big surprise. Ironically, it does come as a big surprise. I was lucky enough to be able to retire so that I could help my mom as needed. Well, I didn't have to retire, but I was lucky enough to have a job where I could work at home. And we think that long-term care insurance will relieve the stress, relieve from financial and emotional burdens, relieve the stress in the family situation, relief in knowing that someone could provide care, because we had people come in to help provide care, relief from guilt and emotional burdens, maintain the care recipient's ability to leave a family a financial legacy or property, so you got resources without having to burn their assets up. Now, some of that stuff's true, but you still have to buy your mother Christmas presents. You still have to buy birthday presents. You still have to provide your mother a life while you're taking care of her. The old adage is that people don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. And that's true. But as highly trained licensed professionals, the things we have to confront our prospects and our clients on are the things that they don't want to acknowledge. They don't want to admit that care is needed, either now or in the future. The problem with selling long-term care on a future need is people aren't necessarily motivated to spend money today for a future problem. Most people think the timing of long-term care was unforeseen or unexpected. And that's particularly true today when you think about the statistics are showing that more people are needing long-term care at a younger age, and they're needing it for accidents, not illnesses. Most people didn't want to talk about it, and that's probably the thing that I was failed at the most in trying to work with prospects and helping clients, is I wasn't willing to have the right conversation. Oh, I went through the basics of long-term care like we did in the beginning here, but I wasn't willing to have the right conversation because people came across to me as if they didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't want to make them uncomfortable. But in not being willing to make them uncomfortable, I wonder how many families I put in jeopardy because I didn't go have the right conversation. They thought they had more time. Listen, we thought we had more time with my mother. My mom probably should have moved in with us 6 months before she did. We hoped the issue would resolve itself, and I think that is a part of denial that all families are involved in. And we, as highly trained licensed professionals, have to help people grasp the concept that these things don't resolve themselves. The things I've shown you today are the questions that you should be having with someone, because 50% of caregivers and care recipients feel that better planning would be something they would do differently if they could. And you can't do it differently. My mom was lucky. She had a great insurance agent, and that was me. She had the right insurance plans. She had the will taken care of, the living will taken care of. All that was taken care of for her. And my wife and I had a level of knowledge of what was going to be necessary to take care of my mother. But not all my sisters were able to accept all of those things. A couple of my sisters fell into the comments on the left-hand side of your screen. 80% of respondents who thought action should have been taken sooner estimated that 8 of the 10,000 out-of-pocket expenses would have been saved. And I probably could have updated some of her stuff to save some of that money over the years. But we wanted my mom to have dignity right up to the end. So even when she got to the point that she had trouble walking, my wife would still put her in the car, take her to her favorite store, Target. My wife was an angel. I mean, she was a godsend. She had so much patience. She would let my mom spend hours walking around Target because my mom at that point with vascular dementia didn't always recognize the things that were more common and familiar to her. And she would pick up something and look at the price of it or read the ingredients of it forever. And that, I would find that frustrating. My wife just had the patience of an angel. So the advice I could give is have a plan in place, and you're part of that plan. People will only have this plan if somebody has that conversation with them. And as a highly trained licensed professional, shouldn't that be you? My husband's frustrated that I did go out there so often and that I'm gone so often. I never got that frustrated. I was fortunate that my wife was willing to drive to Knoxville until my mom had to move in with us. But, you know, the other side of it was true. My mother-in-law had pancreatic cancer, and my wife flew out to Arizona and would stay out there for 2 months at a time, come home for a month, go back at 2 months at a time. She did that for a year. And then my mother-in-law moved in with us and the last year of her life and passed away from pancreatic cancer. And because we went through this experience with my mom, it was easy for me to understand and be supportive of my wife wanting to go take care of her mother and bringing her mother here from Arizona. So we researched what we needed to know before this event took place with us. We didn't feel bad asking questions. We posed the questions to the doctor similar to what, in fact, some of the questions I put up here for you are questions the doctor asked us, where they were drilling down and we started realizing, we're in trouble here. We need to do something. We had to stay on top of the appointments. I give my wife credit for that. She stayed on top of the appointments, the medication, the medical bills had to be submitted. And I'll tell you, it's exhausting physically and emotionally because, you know, you feel like you have a pretty good life. And then something happens. And while your life goes on, your life changes. These people here had a lot of outdoors activities, and the husband was very active. And you see a person you care about's whole lifestyle have to change. And that means that your perception of them has to start changing. This person realized that if family doesn't help as much as they should, you may need to get professional care to complement your care. That's for God's true. We had to do that for sure. And you got to be prepared financially for the unexpected and make sure you have an emotional support system. When my mother-in-law in Arizona was hospitalized the last time with pancreatic cancer, the doctor had no idea how long she would live. And my wife wanted to get an ambulance and bring her home, which she did. Cost $6,000 to have an ambulance bring her and my wife from Arizona out to here. So you've got to have that resources available. You need to focus on cherishing every moment with your loved one and not have to worry about the money so much. And as it got towards the end with my mom, it felt really bad. You could see the look in her eyes. She barely even recognized who you were. But my wife would still get her up, get her dressed every day. And then it got to the point where she couldn't do any of that anymore. She would just spend hours sitting in her chair. So if you're going to have that conversation, what are the things you want to talk about? Let's drill down to some more of the specifics besides what I already showed you. So you want to get some preliminary information because a lot of agents, I've already had some of you have sent me questions like this. Will we be able to get a review of this? Yes, there's going to be a repeat of it. Are there any policies that cover all 6 ADLs? You have to check with your particular state. I hope we get a set of these slides. I told you if you stay on to the end of it, you're going to get a cheat sheet. But here's how you start the conversation off is you drill down on the finances. What's their Social Security going to be? What's their pension income going to be? What type of retirement plan do they have? Do they have other sources of income? What's the total savings that they have? Because any money they use to help pay for this means that when the spouse passes away in later life, that's less money the surviving spouse has to take care of themselves. So do they have Medicare Part A and B? Do they have a Medicare supplement policy or Med Advantage policy? Who's the carrier? What's the monthly premium? Do they have any other health coverage? So, for example, a lot of people will have a travel accident policy, or they'll have a cancer plan that ends when they're 65. Life insurance. Do they have life insurance? Do they have resources to settle the debts, the funeral costs? Now, my mom had a really great agent. She had prepaid funeral. Her and my stepfather had their funeral was all prepaid, but they're still out-of-pocket expense. So people say, "Oh, we've got life insurance for that." Well, my mom had life insurance, but we moved her to Conyers, Georgia, from Knoxville, Tennessee. And when my mom, the last 5 days of my mom's life, we put her in hospice. And when she passed away, her prepaid funeral was in Knoxville, Tennessee. So we had to get an ambulance to take her back to Knoxville, Tennessee, so we could have the funeral. And there was no insurance to pay for that. We had to pay for that. So you want to make sure that you understand what life insurance they have and how much it is. Do they have extended nursing care, long-term care, short-term care? And have a look at those policies if they say they have it, because they could have what they consider a long-term care policy that they bought 20 years ago that's mostly home health care. Skilled nursing care has come into its own in the last few years, and it may not even cover it. Do they have the resources to pay for a nursing home stay? And do they know the difference between skilled nursing home and convalescent care? Do they know the difference between a nursing home and skilled nursing home and convalescent care and what Medicare will pay for? It's very important to know the difference in that. Do they have a cancer plan? Do they have secondary insurance? When my mom fell in our kitchen, she had dental insurance because, again, she had a really good agent. I'm really bragging about myself, aren't I? So she had dental insurance that paid $5,000 to help get her teeth fixed. Do you have hearing insurance, vision insurance? And then you want to summarize what benefits they have, because all the answers to the questions in this conversation and everything we've talked about today is a conversation you're having with your prospect. And once I have this entire conversation and get a whole sense of the socioeconomic issues going on with either them or their parents, then I know which way we need to go. Then I have an idea of it. In fact, one of the scripts that I use called the 4 things seniors are concerned about. Seniors are concerned about managing the cost of doctors, hospitals, prescriptions, recovering at home after a procedure, that's short-term or long-term care, or not leaving a financial burden to their family. So there's a whole script that goes through all of this with them. And it's important that we cover this with them because depending on where you live, it's expensive. Home health care is $3,994 in 2017, just the average cost of it. When my wife was driving back and forth to Knoxville 2 weeks at a time, coming home and go back for 2 weeks, when my wife wasn't there, we had a home person stay in the house with my mom. Home health aid's $4,000 a month. Assisted living facilities, $3,700 a month. Adult daycare, just so the people providing care can get a respite, a break from it's $1,500 a month. A nursing home, skilled nursing home, semi-private room is $7,000. A private room is over $8,000. So, what are some of the other questions? Now that we've drilled down through the questions you should be having with family, have you thought about how you would pay for care if you ever needed it? How long would your assets last if you were paying for long-term care expenses? Do you have a sense of how much long-term care services cost in this area? How would you pay for long-term care, and how would it affect your financial security of your spouse? So if a male's turning 65 and his wife's 62, what's going to happen is that he'll sign up for Social Security. He'll automatically be enrolled in Medicare, and 80% will get some kind of supplement. You fast forward a few years, and he passes away, his wife will have a choice. She can either take his Social Security, because it's usually higher than hers, or she can keep her Social Security. The problem is, in most cases, she's going to take his Social Security, right? Because it's more than hers. The problem is when she makes the choice to take his Social Security, she loses her Social Security. So the first year her husband passed away, the most emotionally devastating time in her life, she has to live on less money. That's why it's important to have that conversation about the assets they have. How would paying for long-term care affect the financial security of your spouse? Would your adult children or other family members be able to quit work or cut back work hours to care for them if needed? None of my siblings could do that. I was fortunate to be in the position that my wife could do that, and I was available. Would you be comfortable moving away from your community and friends to have an adult child or other family member take care of you? You know, some agents say, Lord, does that really happen? Well, it happened to us. My mom's in Knoxville, I'm in Conyers, Georgia. Absolutely happened to us. If you eventually need financial help with your care expenses, how will your children or other family members make decisions about splitting expenses? How will you or your family make decisions about how your finances are handled? So here's the way I always laid it out for prospects. I would talk about a pool of money, and that pool of money included a daily benefit of $150 per day. I did a benefit period of 3 years. We already saw that what the average stay is in a facility. We went through those numbers. So I do a benefit period of 3 years with a total pool of money of $164,000. That's using a daily benefit of $150. And then here's how I would help people figure this out. In the center, we'd write that pool of money, $164,000. And on the left-hand side would be money for the wife, and the right-hand side, money for the husband. And then we would figure out what the cost was in their area for home health care, assisted living, nursing home. We would talk about stay-at-home benefits, any care advisory services, respite days, bed hold, because if they go to respite, there has to be a bed hold. So that's how I would present that to them. And the reason I would do that is because the things that we have to consider, and we're drilling down a little bit deeper, the things we have to consider are the things that make their life available. So home maintenance and living situation, who's going to pay their rent or mortgage? So if one of them goes into a facility, who's going to take care of the home repairs? If the spouse is at home, what about ongoing maintenance for the home? What about safety concerns? We still had to have a gardener come to my mom's house and take care of the yard. The flowers still had to be watered. What about safety concerns around the house? You couldn't have people coming through the yard and you got falling branches and people tripping over it. Is it accessible for disabilities? When my mom came in and things started going downhill with her, we had that lift put in, but we also had to have the bathtub upstairs modified. We had a cut taken out of the side of that bathtub so that she could easily step into it. We had safety rails put up around that bathtub. I said lawn care, pet care. My mom had a parrot. We didn't want the parrot here. My sister in Knoxville had to take the parrot. And housekeeping, for the last 6 months she was at her home before she moved in with us, we had people come in to help take care of her. And paying the bills, my wife helped her take care of her bills the last 2 years. In fact, the last year my wife took care of all of it. We had to keep track of her financial records. That includes paying the taxes, filing her income tax. She had a couple of rental properties and doing work on those and filing the income taxes for her. If they're on any kind of public benefits, that has to be kept up. Driving decisions. When my mom called the one time when she got lost from the doctor's office that she'd been going to for 20 years, and we recognized that she needed somebody there, we had to kind of figure that out. We had to start coordinating rides to the doctors and physical therapy, the dentist office. And then organizing family and professional cares. We tried to coordinate for a period of time where my sister would fly in from Dallas and stay for a few days, and my sister in Knoxville would stay for a few days, and my wife would come out for 2 weeks. My sister in Cleveland, Ohio could never come down. She only came down one time when my mom moved in with us. But my wife drove her to get her hair done, get her pedicure done, which she really liked, and get her nails done. We had to get help with bathing. We had to take her to the doctor's appointments all the time. And some of her doctor's appointments when she was living here was with her a doctor with vascular dementia. We drove her back to Knoxville because that's the doctor she'd had for so long. My wife had to submit all the medical bills and take care of that. And as long as she was mentally able to understand, we had to explain the medical decisions being made. And we had to keep the family notified. As it got towards the end, when my mom was in hospice and we were down the last few days, I would take videos and send the videos to my sisters, 15-second, 30-second videos, so that to try and keep them in the loop until they asked me to quit doing it. When we did have family that wanted to come visit, we had to coordinate those visits. So as it got down to the end, it became very cumbersome to take care of my mom and to let her have as much dignity as she could for as long as she could. But at some point, she had to go into a care facility. She went into a hospice, and everything that you've done for your parent, all that culmination comes together, and you get down to the last few days. And even then, when your parent passes away that you've taken care of, the irony is my mom passed away on June 12th of 2012. And that week, I notified Social Security that she passed away. And her July check did not come. That's how quick people's finances get affected. So we were using her Social Security money to help pay her bills. And when I notified them she passed away, her check that very next month, just 3 weeks later, her July check did not come. People don't think about that. So the high cost of providing that care, if they say they're going to do it themselves at home health care, depending on where you live in Oregon, it's $50,000 a year. A nursing home is almost $100,000 a year. In Texas, a home health care is $41,000 a year. A nursing home is $65,000 a year. In Massachusetts, it's $57,000 a year, and a nursing home is $134,000 a year. And even if you have long-term care, you still have co-pays and deductibles. You still have out-of-pocket expenses that insurance doesn't cover. Now, everybody talks about the cost of waiting, right? So Jane buys a policy with a pool of money of $162,000. Maximum monthly benefit is $4,500. It's a 90-day elimination period, so you have to face all those expenses that first 90 days. You put an inflation rider on there, and the premium is $1,100, almost $1,200 a month. If she waits 5 years, she's going to have an additional cost of $5,000, right? She waits 10 years, an additional cost of $15,000. So that's why I think it's important to have this conversation, help them get some plan, then no plan. And I see, and I work with insurance agents all the time that talk themselves into the sale and talk them right out of a sale, because as salespeople, we tend to sell the way we buy. So you figure up the cost of providing that care for a long-term care policy, home health care, the inflation riders, all that stuff in it, and people say, I can't afford the premium. And you won't show them anything else because you think that's what they should have. And what they should have is what they're willing to buy, in my opinion. And that's because 58% of people underestimate the cost of a nursing home. 52% of people overestimate the cost of part-time aid. 31% underestimate the assisted living costs, while only 29% correctly estimate it, and 36% of people overestimate it. So here's a hybrid plan. Molly is a 55-year-old healthy woman. She's married with two college-age sons. She doesn't want to burden her family should she need long-term care. And as we know, people younger than 65 now are needing it, and they're needing it for accidents as much or more than they're needing it for illnesses. She's got $75,000 in discretionary assets, so she pays a lump sum, a single payment of $75,000 in a long-term care plan. It returns a death benefit of $168,000, or a total of $463,000 in total long-term care benefits. Remember that pool of money we talked about? So there's a lot of different ways to structure a plan to meet somebody's needs and their resources. You can have a CPI on it. You can have 3, 4, 5% simple inflation, compound inflation, guaranteed purchase options. You'll know which plan to get. If you do my 4 things sales script, you'll know which plan to package for them, because their answer to the questions I've shown you today will tell you what plan is appropriate for them. So now we're down to the sales presentation. And it's really 5 steps. You got to prepare to talk. So you got to have all your questions down. This has to be an integrated part of your sales personality. You have to know what your questions you're going to ask, how to ask them. You have to ask questions to understand, not ask questions to reply. You have to form your team. It's not just to your prospect. It's all the people that are going to be impacted by the care of this person. You have to be able to adequately access the needs. And I'm not just talking about the financial needs. I'm talking about the care needs, the emotional needs, the people resources needs, all the needs we've talked about today. And you got to be able to put a plan together. You got to make a plan. The team has to make a plan. This isn't your plan. This isn't their plan. It's a team plan. And then they've got to take action. So let's recap what our vision was today. I said, can you envision? Step one is having a unique understanding that accurately identifies who your long-term care market is and who has the real issue. Do you think, did we cover that today? You have a better understanding of that? Go ahead and type in the box here and let me know. Yes, yes, yes. Too much information. Okay, sorry about that. Yes, yes, all right. And now that you have that vision, that will constantly generate more activity. You think you can get more activity now that you know how to have what conversations with them? Okay, great. And you want to do that. If you do that, then you'll deliver a more clear and confident script. You'll be able to engage people more and convert your prospects into clients. So here's my question to you. Did I show you how to immediately engage your prospect with a better understanding of who has the long-term care problem? And did I show you why product training does not create activity and the things you should not spend most of your time on? Did I cover that for you? Just say yes or no in the box here for me. Yes, yes, yes. This is great. That's yeah. Super. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Listen, I told you I want to get this in as many people's hands as possible. All right. Did I show you how to get more have conversations about long-term care by next Monday and never sweat the uncertainty about when talking about long-term care is appropriate again? Did I show you that? Type in the box. Okay. Yes, 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 yes. You're going to try it. Yeah. Well, have the courage now. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. So what we did is we talked about how to have the right activity with the right person and how that can help you have enough appointments each week to meet your financial goal. And lastly, did I show you how to predict the right sales pitch for your prospect without falling into the pitfall of objections? Just type in there just type the word right. If you have the right script now, the right, more than right. Okay, great. And the reason is, the question is, how will the right script help you improve your sales acumen so they'll put you as a top producer? So by predicting the right sales pitch for your prospects, not falling into the pit of objections, that will improve your sales acumen and you can become a top salesperson. All right, well, we've had a great time today. We've gone through a lot of information. Let me ask you this. If this all makes sense to you, I'd love to continue working together to help you build a successful long-term care market for your business. I'd like to share with you more about what's been working for me. So here's my question. Is it okay if I show you how we can make this happen and work together from here on? If that's okay with you, go ahead and mark the box there. If it's not, appreciate you being on the webinar. But if it is, okay, yes, yes, yes. All right. All right, because I'm interested in working with you. There's a lot of stuff that we haven't covered. And, you know, it's not a difficult market, but it's difficult for us to get through the mental blocks that we put in front of ourselves in order to pivot and be able to add more resources to what we do. I mean, the truth is, the more we package sell, the more we're able to open up the problems that people have and get them to communicate with us, the better chance we have of picking up wallet share and getting customers that will stay with us. And that's really kind of the point of the business. So I say yes, 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 great, great. So let me show you what I'm going to do. I've got a package for you that I put together from some of the training that we've done today, and I call it the long-term care bundle. Now, it's not the same long-term care you're used to seeing. We did that at the beginning of this training today. I know that was a little while ago. And we talked about the typical training we get for long-term care and the things that we say to the prospect, but they never buy. In fact, we agreed that's why you're on the webinar today, because we know none of that stuff works. What the long-term care bundle that I have for you are the things that have worked for me. Some of the things that we talked about today, some of the examples that we went through today. So remember, long-term care is the solution. You sell the problem, not the solution. But the conversation revolves around helping the prospect identify the things they use the most in the order they use it. In other words, identifying their pain. You sell the problem, and when you sell the problem, you present the solution. In fact, when you sell the problem, the prospect will ask you what the solution is. And that's the goal of what we talked about today. You sell the problem and you present the solution. Well, what we've developed together today, you're going to be able to define your personal vision. You're going to be able to perfect a systematic way of selling. And when I say a systematic way of selling, you're going to have the questions and in the order that you need to ask those questions. And you're going to have the specific steps necessary so that as you move to each step, you're bringing a trial close down to the previous issue and you're moving towards the close. You're moving towards the prospect buying from you. You're going to learn how to analyze your prospect's pain, and that's critical. If they don't see that they have a problem, if they're not interested in solving that problem, if they don't have the money to solve that problem, and if they're not interested in solving that problem and they don't have the money to solve that problem today, you're probably not going to make any money. We're going to help you have more appointments on your calendar. We're going to help you handle the stalls and objections that you get before they come up. You know, I always tell agents when I train them, if you get 3 objections, if you get the same objection 3 out of 5 presentations, you need to start putting that objection in the presentation. And so that's one of the things we're going to go through. We're going to help you get commitment up front. You're a highly trained licensed professional and you have a right to ask for the business, but you only have that right if you've actually done the job right. We're going to help keep you on track with the things that when they don't go your way, and they're not going to go your way. You know that. You're a professional. We're going to help you get introductions from referrals. We're going to help you have the rights in the sales process to ask for the business. When you have asked the right questions, when you have provided the prospect with the information they need to make a buying decision, remember, people buy on emotion, they're moved to action by logic. When you've done your job, you have the right to ask for the sale. And we're going to help you be able to get prospects to take action at the time that you're presenting the solution. And we're going to help you get rid of prospects who don't take action. That's just being a professional visitor. We're going to help you get rid of prospects that feel like they're in control. We're going to put you in control of the sales process. We're going to help you get rid of the feeling of being rejected when a prospect says no. I mean, one of the reasons we feel rejected is because we don't have more appointments on our calendar. We're going to help you get rid of prospects that put off things that they must get done. We're going to get rid of this nonsense where they agree, oh, yeah, I got a problem, I'll think about it. We're going to get rid of people that aren't going to buy, so you don't spend your time with people that aren't going to buy. We're going to help you rule people in, not rule them out. And we're going to help you get rid of the people that say, I want to think about it. When we get done with that, you'll be able to get rid of the being an unpaid consultant. You'll be able to get rid of being a professional visitor. You'll get rid of that call reluctance that we all have. That's one of the reasons why I talk to you so much about not selling a product, but having conversations with people. We have call reluctance because we're selling a product. We're going to get rid of the objections over price because we're going to build value in our conversations. We're going to get rid of clients who say they don't know anyone to refer to you. We're going to get rid of the struggle that you go through on the needs assessment. We're going to help you get rid of the struggle you go through with prospects taking action. And we're going to help you get rid of the struggle with what to say to close the business. So who is this for? Well, if you've been on the webinar this long, this is for people who say, I need an overall help with identifying the right. This is for people who say, I'm a little call reluctant, particularly when it comes to a new market. It's for those of you who feel like I don't have enough appointments. And it's definitely for those of you who say my appointments are not sticking. For those of you who say reach enough of the right people, because we're going to give you the questions to go through the funnel to reach the right people. And people who say, you know, I just want to yell at the prospect when they say one thing and do another. I know that. It can be really frustrating. And we're going to help you handle the objections that you're going to get because we're going to put them in the presentation where we know they're going to come up with so they come up less. Mike Zena, he's a client of mine. I just worked with him recently, the beginning of November. He says Lloyd knows his business. He's a consummate professional, diligent in his practice, and has a flair for making it fun. I've learned how to better attract a tribe engage them, and keep them coming back for more. If you want more engagement from your prospects, talk to Lloyd. So the long-term care bundle includes the 7-step sales presentation course. Now this is text as well as a download. You'll actually be able to download the actual, each of the 7 steps. So the 7 steps are everything from the approach to the close to the referral. So for example, you're going to get the approach, which is step 1, the qualification, which is step 2, gaining the commitment, which is step 3, making the actual sales presentation, which is step 4, the pre-close, in other words, how to ask trial close questions, the close, we're going to go through several examples on exactly how to do the close, and the referral or the introduction, as I call it, because I prefer to get an introduction than a referral, but you'll see why when you go through the course. So the long-term care bundle also includes Scripts That Work course. And these are scripts across the different markets, including the 4 things that seniors are concerned about script, which is where you uncover the need for short-term care or long-term care. These are the scripts for the Medicare supplements, the final expense, and the other type of needs that people have that will get you in the door and will help you uncover the problems that they're willing to solve. These are not scripts that are just the boring long-term care, the questions like we asked at the very beginning of this presentation that we all know doesn't work. I've also got scripts in here from other industries to show you the psychology of putting the script together. Everything we talked about today is building the psychology of the sales process. There's 23 of them in here. So it is the basic phone approach and the scripts. How to use your voice. I've done that today in the webinar. I've used the voice inflection. I raised my voice, lowered my voice. How to work direct mail and list prospects and those scripts with the objections and rebuttals. The final expense script. Medicare call script just to get appointments. Medicare approach and sales scripts. Medicare supplement phone sales scripts if you sell over the phone. Handling customers' insurance objections. Medicare supplement sales scripts. The 4 things script, that's where you're going to find the 4 things seniors are concerned about and how to uncover the short-term care and long-term care needs they have. The powerful versus passive words to use to secure that appointment. The life insurance power phrases. There's a Mutual of Omaha script in there to give you an example of how to use a script with a particular carrier. And there's a bunch of other scripts over here. Basic phone setting scripts, simple merchant consumer script, and this way it shows you the psychology of putting that script together. Now what happens when you get in the courses here? Well, once you enter your user ID and password, you're going to log into the home page. This tells you exactly how the site works. There's a video on there that kind of comments on how it works. And you go up here and you click on My Content. And the 2 courses you're going to get out of my 20 courses, the 2 you're going to get is the 7-step sales process. And you're going to get the sales scripts that work. So the 7-step sales process is that approach, the qualification, the commitment, making the actual sales presentation, the pre-close, the close, and getting the referral and the introduction. So I've done this training before, and this is always a challenge about how do I price this. My goal is to get this as many salespeople's hands as I possibly can. So I look at how much other places charge for my training, and I want to figure that out, and let's see if we can come up with something that works for all of us. I just want to get paid for the time I took to put the trainings together, and I want to make it affordable for everybody on the call. So I did a training here recently through the Lead Generation Summit. This took place just a few weeks ago. It was on predictable buying behaviors through the lead generation. It's on 24 hours a day. It's a limited time offer, was $197. So if you signed under that training, that's what you would have paid for that. In fact, someone that was on the training, Glenn, that he sent me an email and asked me a question, and I'm always available to answer emails that people send me. He had a particular situation he wanted me to answer. I answered it for him. He replied back and said, Lloyd, very impressed with your session in the Lead Generation Summit. I just ordered your book, Lead to Results. So we know how much that's just a 1 hour talk I did on the Lead Generation Summit. Here's another organization, Lorman Education Services. I did a training for their leaders how to recruit our top performing sales professionals. So I did this on September 22nd. Now, when I do it for them, they have two options. You pay $105 to be on the webinar, or $140 to get the webinar and the reference manual. So if I look at those two things, that kind of gives me an average price of about $99. So if I take the $99 times the 7 lessons you get in the 7-step sales presentation, a reasonable price would be $693. I mean, if you just said on each of the webinars, as we did on the last two examples, that would be $100 for each one of those. So that would be a reasonable price of $693. If I was going to work with you on the scripts, on the particular scripts for the different markets we talked about, it'd be $99. So that's $2,277. Altogether, those two bundles, just doing it the way I do it with other places, would be $2,970. And that value of all those things are going to do three things for you. It's going to help you get in front of more people that are interested in having a conversation with you. The biggest mistake salespeople make is they're looking for people to buy a product instead of looking for people that have a conversation with you. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to help you learn how to put a sales presentation together in the order of interest that people have, by uncovering the needs they have and using trial closes to move them to the purchase process. And the third thing it's going to do for you, it's going to help you get introductions to other people so that we get rid of this nonsense where we say the prospect says, yeah, I don't know anybody to refer you to. We're going to get rid of that, and we're going to help you get introductions. That whole thing would be $2,970. So here's my question for you. If you could get this kind of help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, get email access to me to stabilize your business, to build a reliable income, and increase your sales consistently for the rest of your career, would that be worth it to you? Just type in the box there and tell me if that'd be worth it to you. You know, the advantage of having this is that you're going to be able to log in anytime you want to. And I know what happens. You log into it, you read a few lessons, you get that buzzword, you leave it, you go out and you do your sales, things are going well, you kind of forget that you've got that site and resource, you start losing a little business, you don't get as many appointments, you're not closing as many sales, you're talking yourself out of more sales than you're getting, and you forget that that resource is there. This is going to be available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days. You're going to be able to go back in there anytime you have a problem with your prospect, and you'll be able to look that problem up and come up with a solution to it. You will always have a coach with you. So I know a bunch of you have answered that question. If you could get this kind of help to stabilize your business, build a reliable income, and increase your sales consistently for the rest of your life. This isn't a one-off where you're just going to get a one-time bump in your sales, but do it consistently. Would this be worth $2,790? $2,970. Yes, and I've got yes, yes, yes. Where do I pay? How do I get this? Yes. Okay, great. So here's my question to you. What would that investment be worth with your time and your money if you could get all that? Joyce Messenger said, Lloyd and I worked together at American Enterprise. I cannot sing its praises loud enough. When I originally met Lloyd, I was green in the art of selling products, and through his help and insight, I became a sales manager in just over a year. Lloyd's direct approach to training and sales is excellent, and I feel he is and will be successful in all that he does. So here's my offer for you today. You're going to get the long-term care bundle. That includes the 7-step sales presentation course with 7 lessons. Those lessons are everything from the approach, uncovering the need, gaining the commitment, making the sales presentation, the pre-close, the close, getting the introductions. You're going to get the scripts at work course, and that's scripts across the board from final expense, Medicare supplement, how to make phone appointments, the actual sales presentation. You're going to get the 4 things seniors are concerned about script, and that's going to show you how to uncover that short-term care, long-term care need. That's a $2,970 value. I want you to get this. I want to get it as many people's hands as I can. So instead of $2,970, I want you to only pay $495 for that. Now, is that a great deal? Is that a great deal to get all that stuff for $495? If you got that whole bundle today for $495, what would that be worth to you? How would that affect your next 10 appointments? What would change in your family's lifestyle if you started having more appointments, closing more presentations, and getting a larger wallet share in each home. If you were able to package your products together so that you helped your prospect and got more initial income through initial first-year commissions and build a renewal stream that would last you for your entire career, what would that be worth to you? Would that be worth $495? Now just type in the box and let me know, because it still gets better. I do have some special bonuses for those of you who decide to jump in today. Another bonus is going to be the podcast. I've got 38 podcasts that you can take with you. Those podcasts are downloadable. You can have them on your iPhone or your Android phone or any other device you use. They're available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for the rest of your career. You're having a problem with qualifications with somebody, you can listen to qualifications. Having trouble getting referrals, you can listen to the referrals. You're feeling a little down because things aren't going your way, you can get some self-motivation. You're getting objections, you can get the standard rebuttals so that you can overcome those 4 basic objections. You're having a difficulty getting people to answer questions because you don't know the difference between statements, questions, and objections. You can get that right there. Maybe you're ordering leads like telemarket cards, but you're having trouble getting appointments with them. You can listen to it right there. 38 podcasts are going to be in this course for you as a bonus because you deserve it. Your family deserves it, you deserve it, and your customers deserve it. They deserve you to be able to meet their needs in the best way that they need those needs met at the time you're with them. And it's all for $495. The 7-step sales presentation course with 7 lessons, the Scripts at Work course with 23 scripts. You get the bonus podcast for 38 audio lessons that you can download and take with you. Now, Rachel is the owner of Midwest Insurance Plan. She said Lloyd is one of the most knowledgeable and effective sales training managers I have worked with. I always look forward to his training sessions because of his unique, no-nonsense teaching style and the vast amount of knowledge and sales skills he brought to the table. Lloyd's fresh ideas and perspective always make perfect sense, and his tips and techniques are easy to apply to my day-to-day conversations with prospects. I would highly recommend his training sessions to new or veteran agents. So whether you're new or veteran agents, you're going to get tremendous value out of this course. So I know how it works. You've got 2 options. Your first option, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to take this leap of faith, which is 100% risk-free. Your second option is pony up the small amount of investment today compared to all the value you get in return and just give it a shot. You deserve to give it a shot. You deserve to have this process available to you so you can help develop your own selling personality. You know, this is going to help you make all these techniques an integrated part of your sales personality so that you can focus on what the prospect is saying, not having to think about what you're going to say. But I've got another bonus for you. Because you're going to be a member of the 7-Figure Sales Tools website, you're going to get members-only webinar invitations. Every time I do a webinar for members only, you're going to get an invitation to that, and then you will have access to those exclusive members-only webinars. So you jump in today, you're going to get the 7-step sales presentation with 7 lessons, the 23 scripts in the Scripts at Work course, the 38 auto lesson bonus. You're going to get the members-only webinars. All that's for $495. Now, tell me if you don't think that's a value. Type in that box there and let me know if you think that's a value. In that members-only webinars, you're going to be able to ask me questions. I get people that email me all the time with their script and ask me to help them work through their script. I'm more than happy to do that. Those podcasts alone are worth that to you because you're going to have 38 lessons that you can take with you all the time. You never have to lose a sale again. You're always going to have that with you. So yes. How do we get this? I appreciate that. Absolutely smart, really smart. I can see that. All right, listen, there's one last surprise. $495. When you click the link, you're going to be able to enter your credit card information. You're going to get the 2 full online learning courses, the video lessons, the downloadable content, the members only webinar, all for a one-time payment. I've even got a better offer for you. If you take action today, you're going to get 50% off. You're going to get a coupon code that's 50% off for everybody who jumps in today. So you're going to get the 7-step sales presentation or 7 lessons there. You're going to get the Scripts that Work course. That's 23 scripts, including that 4 things seniors are concerned about script that shows you how to uncover the short-term care and long-term care needs. You're going to get the 38 podcast bonus. That alone is worth this for you. And you're going to get the bonus invitations to the member-only webinars. Skipper Pond said that working with Lloyd was extremely instrumental in the development of my health and life insurance business. If you ever get a moment to share time with him, you'll come away with so many essential nuggets within the industry. You're going to get all this if you jump in today. Everybody jumps in today, $247. There's a button that just showed up for you. You click that button, enter the coupon. There's a coupon code right here. Enter that coupon code for 50% off. You're going to get everything we talked about today for only $247. I started this off by telling you that I want to get this as many people's hands as I can, because I've been that agent that has been depressed, that has promised my family I would make more money and never did. I have been that agent that has put the money out for leads, that has gone out there and risked my ego, my self-esteem to try and make that money and build my career, and got hit in the face. I know what it's like. I understand. I want you to have this information. You can also just go to the website that's shown right there, and you can buy it right from there. I do have some questions here. So let me go back to this. I want to start with the sales myth. The way you were trained to sell long-term care, the way we are all trained to sell long-term care, is you show the prospect how they can stay in their home, right? That's what we were told. We were told if we show the prospect how they can protect their assets, that we could help them. We were told that if we show the prospect the possibility they will need long-term care, in other words, if we scare them, that they'd buy from us. We were even told that if we show the prospect how much more long-term care will cost in the future, in other words, if we sell for a future need, that they do what? That they buy from us. And you're on this webinar today because you know that doesn't work. The truth is, if you've been down that road, you're here today because you now know that stuff doesn't work. We as highly trained licensed professionals don't need more training. We need better training. Do you feel like you got better training today? If you feel like you got better training today, type in that box right there for me. I've got a question for you. Do you feel like that 1 month your income is high, the next it's dropped off, and you're feeling like a brand new beginner? Do you feel like you start over every month? But just keep typing in that box. Yes, 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 okay. Are you struggling to get the freedom that you want? Are you working too many hours? Do you feel like you're close to burnout? Do you wonder if the only way to hit your income goal is to work even harder? I'm getting a ton of yes. This happens all the time. I'm so sick of this. Yeah, this is not what I thought the business was. Listen, I agree with you, man. I agree. All of you, I agree. Here's what I want to promise you. When you nail this, when you nail down the techniques, the psychology, the methods, and the questions that we talked about today, you won't feel like you're not worth that much anymore. You won't feel like nobody will pay that much. You can be the top salesperson also, because the closer you're dialed into their pain, the more they'll feel like the solution is worth the money that you want to make. Remember, people buy on emotion and they're moved to action by logic. So you're going to be able to give up the feeling of, I just give up. I'm tired of this nonsense. You're going to be able to get rid of the feeling that you can't do it. You're going to replace the feeling of that's impossible. And you're going to get rid of the feeling of you can't do that with I can do it. Because the only thing you have to do is pick one concept every day. You just have to get better 1% every day. in order to have the kind of results that are going to take your family to a six-figure income. And you do that by getting in this course today. You'll get the 7-step sales presentation with 7 lessons, the Scripts That Work course with 23 scripts, and these scripts you can adjust them to fit your sales personality. You're going to get the bonus podcast of 38 audio lessons. You're going to get that bonus invitation to every members-only webinar that I do. And you're going to get all that today. If you jump in today, you're going to get all that for only $247. And that's today. The full price is $495. Actually, the full price is $2,970, but the full price is $495. But I want to get this in as many people's hands as I can today. Enter that coupon code. You get 50% off. Listen, since you stuck around, I want you to have access to that free cheat sheet right now. On the download button below, click that download button. You're going to get that free cheat sheet. And all those questions that you saw me put up here today, all the ways that I got right in touch with the pain that these prospects feel, going to be right in there. All those numbers I gave you, everything's going to be right in that cheat sheet. So I've got a bunch of questions here. People have, in the last 3 or 4 slides, have been typing a lot of questions in. My marketing manager, Julia, posted them on here for me to look at. So Julia, go ahead and start throwing them up there for me. And I'll take a few of them. I know I've kept you on the call for a long time, but I don't want anyone who asks a question to feel like I ignored the question. So as soon as Julia, oh, okay, there we are. Let's see, what are the best lead types? Wow, what a great question. I get this question all the time. And I guess the short answer, since we don't have a lot of time together, the short answer is the best lead's the one you're working. I mean, if you're thinking, if your question is, who's the best lead for long-term care, I would tell you that you might have missed the point in the webinar today. Because if you're selling a product, you're limiting your market to people who want to buy that product. But if you're looking for people that will have a conversation with you, and in that conversation, you use sales finesse, your highly trained, licensed professional sales skills to uncover the needs that they're most interested in solving, then those are the people that will answer your question that reveal that short-term care or long-term care would be a solution. What are the best lead types? The one you're working. If I did it in a hierarchy of ordering the lead types from a source, I might go with direct mail leads. I might go with profile list. I might go with telemarket leads. I might go with internet leads. But I'd have to talk to you individually to see exactly how you're selling and what you're marketing to tell you the best lead type. My counsel to you is the fruit at the end of the tree is the sweetest fruit. So use the lead types you're currently using if you're getting an appointment with them, and learn to ask the questions that we went through today. Julie, do we have any more questions? I think she's going to throw, oh, there we go. Is the long-term care bundle strictly long-term care material? Absolutely not. As we just went through the slides a few minutes ago, if it was strictly long-term care material, I'd be disappointed in you if you hadn't already jumped off this webinar. Because we know that the way we've been trained in long-term care doesn't work. What is in here about long-term care are the 7-step sales presentation steps, because those steps take you from the beginning to the prospect feeling like one idea is connected to the next idea. And the scripts help you uncover the pain that the prospect wants to solve. Those are the things you need. The long-term care is a product that you can get training from any carrier, or you can email me. I'll be happy to talk to you about it. But no, this is about how to sell and how to make more money and use the answers that prospects give you so that you know what solution is going to solve their problem. And when a long-term care product will solve their problem, that's what you'll put in there. Okay, Julie, slow down for a minute. I'm still talking. I seem to run into I can't afford it objection. Listen, I get that. I get that. I used to get that all the time. Part of that, it happens when we go through the qualification period. We go through the qualification prospect, and most salespeople are looking to rule prospect out instead of rule them in. But I'll tell you this, what do people do when the value exceeds the cost? They buy. So it's important to sell value, and it's important to ask tie-down questions and get your prospect to tell you why each feature is a benefit to them. And once we do that, and once we, in the qualification process, once we determine a parameter of how that solution is normally cost and how that affects the value they're getting, you tend to get it less. But here's my philosophy. Julie, get ready to put the next question of it, if there is one. Here's my philosophy. If you get the same objection in 3 out of 5 presentations, start putting it in your presentation. And you'll get that information in the 7-step stills presentation. You got that other one, Julia? Great. People kept telling me they don't need it. And you know what? They're right. They don't need it. It's like a husband who says he doesn't need life insurance. Well, duh. He's dead. His wife and kids are the one that get the benefit from it. He didn't get any benefit from it. Is there an intrinsic benefit? Does he get an emotional benefit of feeling like that he's providing for his family? He doesn't have to worry about them not being able to live in their home and having to move schools because the wife can't afford to pay for the home anymore. If that matters to him, that may be true. But the actual benefit of it, he doesn't get any benefit of it. The family gets the benefit of it. So who gets the benefit of long-term care? There's intrinsic benefits, no question about it. So they know that they can be cared for in their own home. But I'll tell you, when my mom got vascular dementia, she didn't know if she was in my home, my sister's home, or a nursing home. She had no clue. The people who got the most benefit from it was the family. That's why when I went through those 5 steps towards the end of the presentation, the third step was get your team together. You got to have that team together because they don't need it. The person who needs it is the one who's affected the most. So talk to them about the things they use the most in the order they use those things. Julie, is there any more? All right, she said there's 1 or 2 more. What type of scripts do you offer in the long-term care bundle? You got your final expense script, you got your Medicare script, you got your phone script to set appointments with, you got your phone scripts to do the presentation over the phone if you sell over the phone, you got the 4 things script, which uncovers the short-term care, long-term care, you got the handling objections script in there with the rebuttals. So you got a whole bunch of 23 different scripts in there. I can't go through all of them. You got 23 different ones. They're going to make you money. One of those scripts will help you increase your income 25% in the first 30 days if you do one thing, if you use it. Okay, Julia said, I can't seem to get younger people to be interested in long-term care. Well, of course not. And here's why. If you had said to me something about long-term care when I was 40 years old, in my mind, I would have pictured a 75-year-old person in a skilled nursing facility or walking down a hallway in a convalescent home on a walker with wheels with one of those hospital gowns on and their little butt cheeks hanging out the back. And I would have said, yeah, I'm not interested in that because I wouldn't be able to see myself in that role. But if you ask me questions about the lifestyle issues that my family's going through, so if my parents, brother, sister, aunts, uncles, relatives, or friends had to recover at home after a hospital procedure. So if you said, have you ever had any family or friends that had to recover at home after a hospital procedure? And I said, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, my mother had to do that. She had an artery cut open because she had an aneurysm in her neck, and they had to go in there and take that out of her, and she had to recover at home for about 3 weeks. If you learn to ask those questions, then they're going to start identifying with the things that matter to that family. Are they interested in a product called long-term care? Probably not. But you get that in the 7-step sales presentation. We'll go through that whole process. Julia, we got any more here? Because I don't want to keep people on if they're not asking questions. Okay. All right, I'll do this one. Which long-term care plans are the best? Well, listen, I've always believed if you need a helping hand, just look at the end of your hand. The best long-term care product is the one the prospect is willing to buy. You know, agents make this mistake all the time in my experience. They sell the way they buy. So they figure a price for a product, and in their mind, if it's more than they are willing to pay or more than they can afford, then they tend to not even want to present it to the prospect. So the other agents at the other end of the spectrum will design a plan with all the bells and whistles, and that's the only plan they'll present because they think that's the one that everybody should have. I'll tell you what, if you ask the questions in the way that I showed you today, if you ask the questions the way the scripts line out, people will design their own plan. If you go through that 4 things seniors are concerned about, people will design their own plan and tell you which plan they want to buy because the best plan to help them buy is the one they'll pay for. Julie got me another one. Can you deduct the cost of long-term care? In 2017, it is the same as your medical deductions, 10% of your adjusted gross income. So here's a question for you. Here's a free giveaway. how do you know if someone is going to be able to deduct this? So I might ask my prospect, now, John, let me ask you a question. Were you able to deduct your medical expenses last year? Then no, I wasn't able to do that. How much did you miss it by? I missed it by $1,500. My long-term care policy is $2,500 a year, right? So if he had my long-term care policy, would he have been able to deduct all that? Because everything above that he would have been able to deduct. So that's a great question to ask. And rather than tell people you can deduct long-term care, I like to ask that question, were you able to deduct your medical expenses last year? Because now I can illustrate to them, to demonstrate you illustrate, I can illustrate to them how that's a benefit. All right. Julie, any more questions? Seems like we're going way over time here. Oh, what's the best time to present long-term care? My answer is my short answer to that is learn to ask questions that uncover the problems that people are motivated to solve, and the product will reveal itself. But I'm not going to tell you when the best time to present long-term care is because I don't know who's going to answer what question from you. But when they answer a question that illustrates to you that a short-term care or a long-term care solution would be something that would fit in with them and that they're willing to pay for it, that's when you present long-term care. Oh, Julie's got one more for me. I have prospects who say they will just pay for it or their kids will take care of them. Of course they do. So I don't have time to go through all that. That's in the rebuttals. I covered some of that today. But of course they're going to say they would just pay for it. And usually the person who says that is the one that isn't going to be impacted by them taking their cash flow, their assets, and spending on that. The person who's going to be impacted is the surviving spouse who will have less principal left to earn an interest income and sustain them through their old age. And their kids are going to take care of them. You asked the questions I showed you today. When I think of that example of my mom falling off the toilet in our hallway, me having to go in and pick her up naked from the butt down, get her back on the toilet, my wife, helping my wife get her out in the hallway, my wife taking her upstairs, and me having to get the carpet cleaner to clean that carpet off. You ask them that question, which of the kids are going to do that for you, and you won't get that anymore. Are there any more questions, Julia? Yeah, it looks like that's all. There's one more thing you get today for $247 I haven't mentioned. You get me. So I'm available for you. You can always email me. I'm more than happy to answer those questions. You get my members-only webinars. So for $247, you get everything we talked about today, and you get me. Just click that button below, or go to the website you see right there. Put the coupon code in there, and get your bundle today for $247. After you do that, don't get off it now, but after you do that, go to LinkedIn, type my name in, Lloyd Lofton. Let's connect on LinkedIn. I got a big network. I'm always happy to make new friends. We can always learn from each other. And if there's somebody in my network can help you, I'm more than happy to make that introduction. Listen, I really enjoyed the time together today. I hope you bring this benefit to your family. I hope you have enough belief in your business that you're willing to invest $247 to grow your business to $100,000 income. You deserve it. Your family deserves it, and your customers deserve it. So I'm going to jump off now. You guys can always email me if you want to. I'll leave this up on the screen for a couple of seconds. Enter that coupon code, jump on board for $247, and I look forward to working with you on the flip side. Take care, guys.